every organization has a culture. You might be the boss or you might be the leader, but that doesn't mean you can just snap your fingers and make everybody do everything. One of the things I take the most pride in with our company, Boyce Watkins Enterprises, is that most of the people that worked with us have been here for like 6, 7, 8 years. And I told my brother, I said either we paying people too much or we must be doing a decent job because people come in and they just stay for a long time. And that's something I take pride in. Like when everybody's leaving, that kind of tells you, okay, something's wrong. Because every now and then you might have a bad apple you got to remove. But when you have a mass exodus like Kevin Hart had to deal with, that says that there's a problem with the leadership. Now, I'd be curious to know what you think about this. Another thing that was mentioned when I was grabbing reports is that so the CEO I believe left, if I'm not mistaken, and then Kevin says, "Well, I'm going to be the CEO." And then the C but he's Kevin Hart, which means he's all over the world. He's shooting stuff, he's doing commercials and TV shows. And so he's gone for weeks at a time. Would that be a red flag for you? Like, can you imagine that? Did you ever have a company where you could just leave for weeks at a time?
No,
I've
no.
never, I haven't seen that. What do you think about that?
No, I think, yeah, I think that that's so he inserted himself as CEO. So again, that, maybe maybe he doesn't have the skills to run a company like that. Maybe he just, with the CEO exiting, it was a knee-jerk reaction for him to step in. Now, not to say he doesn't have the acumen for understanding the industry because he's in it. He's a major player in it from a talent perspective, but predominantly at a work for hire situation, not so with this production company, this is interesting to learn, kind of what's going on. I think too, one of our guests, one of our members, Rod, mentioned that Kevin had an interview that talked about how the content creators are getting a lot more exposure and getting a lot more revenue. And so again, that lends to what's going on overall in the industry, right? Um, Overall with entertainment, people are creating their own platforms. You've built a phenomenal platform, focusing on, edutainment, educating everybody, but not necessarily the entertainment element, Dr. Watkins, but you have built a phenomenal platform over the decades because I've been following you for some time. So the average person that has an idea and has the wherewithal can build their own. And so I think, our entertainers are competing with the average Joes and Jeromes and Tamikas of the world. You know what I mean? I saw even my husband had pointed out that what's the gentleman's name? Country Wayne, I think, the comedian, he's getting massive deals from he created content and getting six-figure checks, and for me, that's not content that I consume. That's kind of, I'm not gonna say lowbrow, but it's just not my thing. I love to laugh, but that's not my thing. But to think that content that's not even for someone like me or mainstream is bringing in that kind of money, that's kind of off the grid, so to speak, compared to uh the big movie houses and big production companies, the Universal Music Groups of the world and all of that. That's interesting. And it has democratized entertainment. And we've been seeing that for some time with the advent of social media and how everyday people can build their own.